Caretaker Matt here. I wanted to bring up a topic about one of the all-time great horror movies that I feel doesn't get said enough, and that's Jaws, widely known as one of the greats of all time. But the topic that I want to talk about is Mrs. Kintner. Now, Mrs. Kintner gets a lot of shit thrown at her because people say, oh, she's this old lady. How old is this woman who has this young boy? She was like in her mid-40s when she filmed that movie. So the math works out that she could very well have that kid. And obviously, the gentleman escorting her to Chief Brody is obviously her father, not Mrs. Kintner's husband. But without her in this movie, this is no more than a creature feature, a very well done creature feature. Everybody loves it, but without her sorrow, we don't get a single person in this movie grieving anybody who has died, like this woman right here. Without her grief, this is no more than a creature feature. You need Mrs. Kintner's grief to show Chief Brody that he has to do something. And he stands there and he takes this, even though it's the goddamn mayor who should be taking this slap. He stands there because he knows he has to let this woman express her grief, because he could have done something. He could have fought harder. At least he feels he could have, even though he's fighting a losing battle against the mayor and everybody else on that council. But in her grief, she moves this movie forward, because without her grief, we don't get the depth of Brody, because Brody's character shows right here in this scene. You see Chief Brody for the man that he truly is, by standing there and taking it because he has to. Because it's so easy to step aside and be like, let me introduce you to the mayor here. He's the asshole that is the reason your son is dead. But he doesn't. He does exactly what he should in this scene. And then because of that, the movie propels forward. So before we start casting stones at Mrs. Kintner for being this old lady, maybe we just appreciate her for being the only person who is grieving somebody. And by the way, she happened to live in a retirement community not far from me for years, and people would go to her retirement community and ask her to slap them. I would have if I had known she was here. I would have gone every weekend to ask that woman to slap me, because there's nothing like that. So this is the Mrs. Kintner, the only person in Jaws mourning someone who died. This is Caretaker Matt, over and out.